is 5 habits you need to know if you want to lose body fat in 2025. I'm going to do this in 5 minutes today. So get ready. Here we go. First one, you need to track your weight every single day. The amount of times I've made the mistake of tracking my weight weekly or tracking my weight on an ad hoc basis where I just simply go to the gym and then go, what am I weighing in today? Whilst I wear shoes, whilst I've eaten and drunk loads of water, and expect that to be a key indicator of my progress. The amount of times I've done that and expected results is alarming, to be honest with you. And looking back, I would look at that version of Gabriel and probably punch him in the face and just say, what are you doing, mate? You're just wasting your time. You should be using this time dieting and losing body fat to actually build muscle, because that's where the physique grows. But instead, you're doing a fake cut because you're too lazy to actually do things properly. So knowing what I know now, I would make sure that I put a scale in my bathroom. And every time I wake up, I would have my morning coffee, I would go to the toilet, and I'd weigh myself before my morning shower, and I'd write down the weight, either using an app, an Excel spreadsheet, or notes. And I would put that in, and I would check it every single day, and I would probably use Excel. I have an app for this, and create a weekly average. The weekly average is what we use, and that basically combats any fluctuations intraday. So anything to do with water retention, anything to do with bad sleep, training late, inflammation from a night before, all of that's going to affect your morning weight. So those fluctuations, those are normal. The weekly average gives us an actual trend that we can use. And then from there, I would basically aim for 0.5 to 1 kilogram of body fat per week. And if that was not moving, then I would change something. That would be tip number one. Second of all, I would eat more food. And I know that sounds crazy. Why on earth would you eat more food? Well, the reason I'd eat more food is because it means I could actually train harder, and it means I could actually burn more calories from training harder whilst retaining muscle. And also I could actually push more with my day-to-day steps and my day-to-day cardio. Now, the reason I would also eat more is because if I'm losing my 0.5 to 1 kilogram, I can keep using the same amount of food until that stops. And when that does stop, I can increase my cardio. I do not have to rely on food as my main tool to lose body fat. Cardio can be used as well. And the higher you keep your food, the more leverage you have, because when you start to plateau, you can reduce the food without going into dangerous territory where you actually affect your overall training, which then makes it very hard to actually move, burn calories, and even function. At the end of the day, I run a business. I can't really just afford to be on 1,600 calories per day. I need my brain to think. I need to be able to train and retain my muscle. I need to be able to actually perform. Therefore, I keep my food high, and I use cardio and expenditure as a tool, as a piece of leverage to actually make sure that I lose fat in an effective way. Third of all, I would make sure that I fast. I would use fasting to my advantage. The reason why this works so well: coffee, it suppresses your appetite. If you have black coffee, it has 0 calories. Now, typically when you wake up in the morning, depending on who you are, the hormone, the hunger hormone leptin that keeps you full is higher. Therefore, it's easy to actually suppress your appetite first thing in the morning. Now, if you pair that with a appetite suppressant such as caffeine, such as black coffee, not only will this suppress your appetite further, but it will make you more productive. The reason why is because you're essentially having caffeine on an empty stomach. Therefore, it's going to hit you more, which means what? If you go into your morning work block on an empty stomach, fasted, which has a crazy amount of benefits, paired with an appetite suppressant such as caffeine, not only will you be more productive, but you'll be way less likely to eat more food. And what does this mean for fat loss? Well, if I wake up at 6 a.m., work from 6 till 12, and I fast the entire way and drink loads of coffee, I can stop drinking coffee nice and early before 12 because I've had a shitload, which means that I can have a great sleep in the evening. And then also, I now have my first meal at 12. And if I have 4 to 6 meals, I can spread that evenly over 2 to 3 hours until I go to bed at 10. And that will stop any cravings because I'm eating so frequently. I hope that makes sense. The worst thing you want to be doing is eating last in the evening. You know, if you've eaten all of your food and you've run out of calories in the evening, that's when, things get a bit dangerous. You start looking at it's 9 o'clock, you're watching Netflix and you look in the fridge and you're like, what can we find here? Some blueberries, some dark chocolate. And that's where, you go from a deficit into maintenance into a potential surplus. And that's what slows you down. So fasting in the morning, that will change your game. Okay. Fourth tip, don't run. I know what you're thinking, right? Surely running is a great form of cardio. And it is. I love running. However, there's a reason Chris Bumstead, there's a reason every single bodybuilder uses a Stairmaster. It's not for fun. No one likes a Stairmaster. It's shit. But it's less taxing on the body. And the truth is, if you were to run every single day, and if you were to do the actual levels of cardio that you need to do when you go peak into a deficit, potentially 30 to 45 minutes per day, and you were to run, not only would you generate a lot of systemic fatigue on the body, you would also be very fucking hungry. Running spikes ghrelin, the hormone that essentially makes you hungry. You are going to crave food way more, and you are going to likely eat more, especially when you are eating very low amount of calories. running is not the tool that you want to be using. You want to be using low intensity, steady state cardio. Not to mention that when you run, it's very hard to actually keep your heart rate at zone 2. You have to jog very slowly. So I would ditch the running. That's a very good tip. Stairmaster, it works. And finally, when you're doing your cardio and you're doing your steps, the big mistake people make is they take the steps that they generate from cardio and then factor that into their total step count and assume that means they're doing 10,000 steps, if that makes sense. Your goal is to do 10,000 steps and then add on whatever you do from cardio, because the big mistake why people plateau is essentially they go for a run or they go on the Stairmaster or they do an incline walk or whatever and they get around 3,000-4,000 steps from that and then they only hit 10,000 steps for the day. Well, really you did 6,000 steps and you did 4,000 from your cardio. In actual fact, you should be doing 10,000 steps from walking alone and then 4,000 on top of that. And as a result, you will lose fat in a much more effective way. The reason why is because you're actually using steps to your advantage, which is the best form of fat loss, because realistically, it's not very taxing at all on the body. And as a result, you're actually able to burn a lot of fat without actually creating a lot of hunger or any sort of fatigue. And as a result, it's much, much more sustainable. It's a great lever. And what people typically don't realize is when they start to plateau, they think it's because of their food. So they decrease their food, but actually they weren't organizing their steps and cardio correctly, therefore their expenditure was off. If you sort all of those things, that will help you massively. There are plenty more tips, but I only had 5 minutes, so there you go. I hope that was useful. Any questions, please let me know. Other than that, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.